If I told you that there was an ability in Overwatch with no cooldown, gave infinite information, and if used correctly, can single-handedly win games, you'd think it'd be broken. Well, let me tell you, that button already exists. Tab is the most overlooked, underused ability in Overwatch, and I'm calling it an ability because that is how you need to start thinking of Tab. Normally, when players press Tab, they're just checking their stats and wondering why their teammates are so shit.
Nigga wanna see me fall. Stephen Curry, how I ball.
Why am I just not getting healed? Like what's... Oh... Dude, Gorg is fucking cosmetic! Gorg!
I'm guilty of this too, everyone is. But I'm here to tell you right now how to use tabs to win games. Tab gives you the information on the stats of both teams. Most notably, the healing, damage, deaths, kills, among other hero-specific stuff. It also tells you the ult charge of your own teammates, and this is where we get into the first step about ult tracking. A while ago, Marbler made a video about the ultimate costs for each hero, and as you can see, they vary by quite a bit. The numbers basically reflect the amount of damage and healing that you need to attain to get your ultimate on each hero. This is important because in the first fight of every game, you can roughly track the ult status of each hero because you can just look at their stats, add up both the healing and damage, and determine if they're close or not to their ultimates. You don't need to be exact, an error margin of plus or minus 10% is usually okay. The actual important thing is what you do with this information. This is where most players go wrong and where I'm probably gonna lose most of my viewers at this point, because this shit isn't easy. When you ult track, 99% of the time, you're either gonna be at an ultimate advantage or disadvantage, and in each of those situations, you can either play fast or you can play slow. Let's start with what you do at an ultimate disadvantage. The play fast option involves doing what some players like to call chaos fighting. This is when you do a pretty risky play, because if you take a straight up fight when down ultimates, you're just gonna lose. If their Sombra has EMP, you can't just stand still and let the Sombra set up her ideal EMP. If you've got big burst damage ultimates or burst mobility ultimates like Shatter, Window, Kitsune Rush, Barrage, etc., you need to amp up the tempo with those ultimates. I'll show my own example here. The point being is that they're gonna get 5 ultimates, we're gonna get 3, and if I just stand still on point and let them come at us, we're going to lose because they've got more ultimates. Knowing that, I decided to take matters into my own hands and to try and play fast with Shatter. Now, micro-wise, I should have been playing closer to this corner to be able to get that Shatter around the corner and for the epicenter of my Shatter to actually hit the target so I get that one shot. I think I was just a bit scared of taking too much damage early on, but the point being here is when I see the Cassidy, I walk forward and I shatter around the corner like that. I don't really get it on the sensor, again, could have been better micro-wise, but I do catch that Kiriko, and I do the swing, 5-strike combo, and I get that kill. Now, you can't see my HP in the bottom left, but I am very low, I get down to like 38 HP there. You could make an argument that if I'm higher elo, this play doesn't work, and I think that's fair, but again, that's to do with micro. I think the actual plan of what I did, the macro stuff there, perfectly fine. In terms of team play, it gets a little bit more complicated. Sometimes plans aren't as simple as inting in with Nanoblade or Shatter. For instance, there was this one really good example last year of where the Spitfire knew the enemy team had EMP, and instead of standing still and bunkering down, they decided to make a risky TP play to try and get on top of the backline. It didn't work out, but that was mainly due to micro. Here's yet another case of it here, but it's actually trying to leverage open space in a pretty creative way. So I actually think Zen goes first here, because everyone's ready to go on high ground. He actually drops down, he can do as much damage as he wants. When they see these people rotating to Zen in open space, that is your go sign to hard engage. And then just trans out, and then you're in a 5v4, and then you're chilling. Hopefully this can get your creative juices flowing. I've coached teams in the past where they need to play fast because they're down ultimates, and you can see another example that I'm drawing up for a team in the background here on Midtown. Because if you play slow, well, it's 3 ultimates. You can't bait all 3, you know? So your only option here is, again, to play fast and to play chaotic. You bait them into open space over here, maybe your Echo flanks around late in the fight, comes around like this, and then you've got like a 2-2-1 kind of pincer from 3 different angles, you know? And again, it's leveraging things like open space, it's leveraging what your comp is good at, which is long range angle control, and it's also leveraging the strengths of your heroes, you know? Echo's fairly mobile, you can flank around like this. If you're playing Venture, you might want to flank around like that as well. Speaking of my coaching, if you're interested, check the top link in the description. Now onto the play slow option. I want to credit tier 2 coach Capitology for this, because he explained this idea pretty well. But in short, playing slow at an ultimate disadvantage can involve baiting ultimates out of the enemy team. You perform this by playing close and pretending you're going to fight, but actually, you're just disengaged straight after. Here's a great example of it in yet another ranked game, and in this instance, I was 5 stacking. Again, I knew they had an ultimate advantage because I just used Shatter last fight, so my plan is to play close, force them to use something like Kitsune Rush or Overclock, then speed out with Hyper Ring, and then re-engage afterwards. And that's literally exactly what we do. They pop the Overclock and Kitsune Rush, I press S key and I disengage, and after that we re-engage with our own Juno ult and we win the fights. Another good ranked example is an Icon Walled, where you hold the second corner, bait out an ultimate, disengage it, and play that last corner, then you can re-engage with an ultimate of your own. If you just hold that last corner, you're gonna get pushed back to spawn and lose all your space. To tie up this section, I also gave some other examples in my sex video with the questionable thumbnail, I know, but there were some good cases of our team playing close, then immediately disengaging to bait 2 ultimates out of the enemy team. You can see at the end here, I drew an ebb and flow graph, or back and forth graph, about how we just used our cooldowns and our positioning to force something out of the enemy team. Again, this all stems from Ult Tracking, which is information that by pressing tab, you can get. Now, what do you choose? Do you play fast or do you play slow? The honest answer is that for a good chunk of the time, it doesn't actually matter. Just that whatever option you choose, be it fast or slow, your entire team needs to also choose that option as well. Back in that Ryan example, if my supports weren't with me or they were on high ground, I would probably die making that play. However, there are some factors that do influence your choice. The first is the actual ultimates themselves. For example, if you want to rush with beat, you can't really do that if their Lucio has their own beats. However, if they're playing BAP Kiriko, even if they have both of their ultimates, beat rushing can be viable. The second is how close you are to your own ultimates. Again, pressing tab gives you that information. If you're 80% to beat, play slow to build up that beat before you go in. Even if you're 60% to an ultimate, it's better to play slow to try and build that ultimate up in the mid-fights. Now on to what to do if you have an ultimate advantage, and this is quite simple. The first option is to just brute force it. More specifically, when I say that, I mean forcing the points, rushing down a single target, or just diving their backline with an ultimate. There aren't many nuances with this, but there are nuances with when you want to do this, which I'll explain in section 5C. Now lastly, there's playing slow with an ultimate advantage. This is actually pretty similar to section 4B because it mainly involves disengaging a set of ultimates from the enemy team just for a different reason, which I'll get onto now. The first reason or factor as to why you'd want to play slow with an ult advantage is to waste time. For example, if you've got point control, you want long, drawn-out fights that maximize your percentage gained on the points. Ideally, you don't want to have a quick fight unless you have to. But you have an ultimate advantage, so you don't have to. Conversely, if you're the attacking team, you want a short, quick fight that minimizes their percentage gained, i.e. brute forcing it. You can see a pro play example here, where Boston Uprising beat rushed the backline of Spitfire off the map. Yes, London do have their own beat, but due to the map geometry, the equal ultimates on both sides, and considering that Boston want to get on top of the backline, this fight plan is more than sound. The second factor is again, building ultimates in the mid-fights. Maybe at the beginning, you have an ultimate advantage, maybe 3 of you have ults. But you only have this advantage temporarily, because most of the enemy team are at 60 to 80% to their ultimates. If you play slow, you're gonna let them build their ultimates and you're gonna lose. Instead, leverage this period of time where you have the advantage. Now onto other bits of information that pressing tab can be useful for. The first is of course swapping. Not necessarily counter swapping, but if you've got shitty hook accuracy, or your teammate is dying too many times, or whatever the case may be, it might be time to swap. Obviously, this doesn't just apply to you, you can tell your teammates to swap as well, but that leads me on to the final point in the video. Avoid flaming where possible. Listen, I flame a bit too much, especially when my May 1 trick is going 17-14 on per ASO, but at least as a general principle, if you're gonna use tab to flame someone, you also need to be using it properly to plan fights. It's better to never use your tab button than to misuse it. And that's it for the video. Hopefully I dragged you in with the packaging and marketing of this video, because nobody wants to learn about fight planning, but I finally made a video on it, so if you enjoyed, let me know your thoughts down below, and until next time.